So I'm hearing a lot of mixed things about Destiny Rising's newest hero, Helhest. Helhest is an arc-piercing hero whose kit utilizes several drones that support herself and allies on the battlefield. Damage boosting, healing, and heavy ammo generation basically encompass the sum of her kit, but she's also a massive damage dealer. Her kit is super unique and really useful in team composition, but unlike the previous hero offerings, this specific character requires a bit more strategy and discipline. This bodes the question, is she even worth pulling? Let's get into it. Before I dive too deep into my thoughts, let's start with a kit breakdown. Then we'll go into some more details. First, let's get some verbs out of the way. Assisted calculation, data analysis, and data fragments. Assisted calculation states that dealing damage to combatants also inflicts data analysis for 12 seconds. Data analysis states that when afflicted combatants are defeated, they drop one data fragment which can stay on the ground for up to 60 seconds. Data fragments states generated data fragments are small blue squares that are automatically absorbed by the nearest drone, then uploaded into Hellhest's prosthetic to power her encrypted network, scaling with the number of fireteam members to a floor of 33%. The encrypted network can store up to 48 data fragments, and when Hellhest stores 24 fragments, she can consume 24 of them to create a heavy ammo brick for all allies in a 70-meter radius. Okay, so with those basic definitions out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to her passive. Her passive is data conversion. Data conversion states when boosting healing drones buff or heal allies, they also grant the assisted calculation effect for 20 seconds. Hellhest herself will always have the assisted calculation effect. Next is her signature 1, Rapid Deployment. Rapid Deployment is an ability that deploys a drone in front of Hellhest. Holding the ability button will allow Hellhest to deploy the drones to a specified location, and casting it a second time will upgrade the drone's level. By default, the maximum level is 2, but with one of her talent tree nodes, that cap is increased to 3. There are 2 types of drones available to Hellhest, healing drones and boosting drones. Healing drones provide healing over time within a specified range, while boosting drones increase damage within a specified radius around the drone. Hellhest's second signature ability is called Salvo. Upon casting, it activates her prosthetic arm to fire a volley of missiles at a reticle position and gives her the salvo effect, which makes the shots to combatants or terrain trigger additional missile volleys. Her ultimate is called Full Firepower, and it teleports a super drone to the battlefield. The super drone will follow Hellhest around and increase the effects of all other drones on the field. The super drone will also continuously attack combatants and heal allies within its range. Her relic traits are Short Frequency Activation, Breakneck Collaborator, and Highlights. Short Frequency Activation states that deploying or upgrading a drone increases the drone's bonus potency provided by the drone in question by 200% for 4 seconds, with repeated applications extending the effect duration. It does not work while the super drone is present on the field, though. Breakneck Collaborator states that allies, including Hellhest herself, gain 40% movement speed while within the range of a drone. The effect also lingers for 8 seconds after exiting the drone's range. Lastly, Highlights automatically upgrades all drones present to max and refreshes their duration when teleporting the super drone into battle. It also lets you deploy new drones at max level while the super drone's present, which is a pretty good boost. Lastly is her weapon mastery, Overclock Shot. Overclock Shot grants the Overclock Shot buff after casting Salvo. Further, getting to Weapon Mastery 4 also adds the Overclocked effect to Hellhest when she has Salvo stacks, making linear fusion rifle shots fired reload 1 round at a time from reserves. In terms of relics, my current personal build is Ring of Abundance for an increase to healing and shield generation, Ring of Conversion to convert overflow healing into overshields, Inverted Fury which buffs my damage while shielded, and Bellicose Planetismal which buffs my damage after casting an ability. I've found this build to be really potent, and it really matches how I play her. But there are other options as well. Her kit is all about sustaining and buffing yourself and your allies, so you could build into ally bonuses using the brand new Axion set, including Inspiring Axion, Ring of Conversion, United Axion, and Illuminated Ground. Though it seems from my testing that United Axion is either bugged at the moment, or rather it seems to only be applying to the damage buff the drones create rather than the weapon damage directly. Or you could go for a more ranged approach and focus hard into piercing options, using artifacts like Ring of Abundance, Inverted Tenacity, Calming Token, and Illuminated Ground. In terms of which stats you want to focus on your artifacts, Weapon Enhancement, Signature Boost, Ability Strength, Healing Boost, and Damage Bonus Boost are all areas I would place as top priorities for stat focusing into. Though, admittedly, that's not the easiest thing in this game for sure. Just try to get those stats as high as you can, and you won't regret it, I suppose. Keep in mind, these are just my opinions too. It's always possible that you'll find something out there that are some better options for you, but for my current testing over the last few days, these are the combinations I've kind of come up with. Okay, now we've covered her kit and her relics. Let's talk weapons. There are only two options in the bow department. Both are arc, one is exotic, same as Rossi. The mythic options is the Yoshimoto, and currently it's the only mythic bow in the game. It's an arc damage bow with a 544 draw time. It's got solid perks in both perk columns, but the ideal combination here is either Archer's Tempo or Annihilation and ensured yields. A little different from what I said about Rossi's options, huh? Well, if you're unfamiliar with the perk, Archer's Tempo is going to let you draw the shots faster after precision hits, and Annihilation lets you deal higher damage the lower the combatant's health gets, allowing for quicker cleanup. Why would Archer's Tempo not be the definitive option here, though? Well, that's because of Hellhest's kit. Currently, it seems like there's a bug wherein Archer's Tempo is stacked with overclocked shot. Your bow can have, performance issues. We in Overkill have been referring to it as limp arrow. Anyways, long story short, the shots just don't draw at all. Instead, they just kind of flop down in front of Hellhest. The biggest question is if this interaction is a bug or a feature, right? If it's a bug that will be addressed eventually, then the god roll will likely be Archer's Tempo. But if it's a feature, then Annihilation may be a better option. The fact is, with overclocked shot, the draw times are so good, to be honest, you really don't even need the bonuses from it. The second perk, Ensured Yields, will grant your next arrow 60% damage after shooting it if you net a kill, and 35% damage if you don't, which basically translates into a free 35% flat damage bonus for every arrow past the first one, so it's without a doubt the best perk in the column. In addition, if you manage to get the perk upgrade guaranteed by a matching exotic mod as well, it also buffs the reload speed by 30% when you don't get a kill, making it a potent perk against majors and ultras. In terms of the other bow option, we've got the exotic Trinity Ghoul, which excels in AoE damage and chain lightning. Trinity Ghoul's catalysts give it really solid boosts, including its C1, which allows for the lightning rod perk to trigger from any final blows with the weapon itself or arc abilities, as well as its C2, which grants it the ability to extend the lightning rod buff with precision hits, letting it score up to 2 additional lightning strikes. And, as an added bonus, precision kills will reset the number of strikes fully. Looking at its C3, it honestly isn't even all that important, as it really only nets you a 25% increase to chain lightning damage, so this bow also doesn't have the issue that some other exotics like the Octant Riot Dispenser does, where the C3 seems mandatory to make the bow viable in in-game. Now that we've covered the primaries, let's talk about the heavies. In the heavy slot, much like the primary slot, there are really only two options, one exotic and one mythic. The mythic is the Solar 488 charge time into the line, and the exotic is the Royal Contravene. I could pretty much actually just skip talking about the mythic option entirely if we're being honest, because you really want Royal Contravene and the choice isn't even close. But just so all the options are on the table, let's break down both options here. End of the line rolls with Firing Line, Fraternity, and Trinklater in column 1, as well as Blackbody, Shiver, and Searing Mark in column 2. Instinct would likely tell you that Trinklater or Fraternity would be the best options for column 1, but just for Hellhest, my pack's Resident Deputy Commander and Chief Numbers Cruncher and Hellhest main, by the way, Ryan, link down in the description, follow him if you haven't already, found out something pretty neat and passed it along to me. I tested it and verified it myself, so that's a direct reason for my recommendation here. Turns out, since her drones are coded a little funny, they don't count as summons, they count as allies. This is the same reason why we didn't use any summon-based artifacts in our builds earlier, and it's also the reason I'm recommending Firing Line here. Fraternity bases itself off of your fire team and is pretty good, but completely reliant on your teammates managing to stay alive. Trinklater, likewise, also only applies when the fire team is full. Again, it's dependent on your teammates, but Firing Line can be procced by your drones, meaning if you're playing into Hellhest's playstyle and sticking by your drones, you'll have an essentially permanent 30% precision damage boost. Further, if you have the exotic mod that matches and boosts Firing Line, you'll also get a 30% shorter reload time while near your drones. This makes the perk a top-tier choice for Hellhest specifically. Fraternity is also good in some situations, as it does also proc in solo content since you're the only fire team member and it grants you a 35% damage buff. But its reliance on teammates and higher end content make it have less guaranteed uptime than Firing Line, which is why I typically recommend that one for her instead. In column 2, there's really only one consideration, Searing Mark. Searing Mark grants the next round fired within a 5-second period plus 12% precision damage after netting a precision hit, and it stacks up to 5 times. It also gives the last round in the magazine plus 250% precision damage based on the number of stacks you're holding. If you have the exotic mod upgrade too, it makes the weapon add 2 stacks per precision hit on bosses and powerful combatants. The potency of Firing Line and Searing Mark makes for a really strong mythic option. That's still completely outpaced by its exotic option. Royal Contravene has 2 firing modes. Marksman Sights, which fires a long-range, slow-charging shot that chains to nearby enemies and blinds targets on hit, and Combat Sights, which has a faster charge time and fires a 3-round burst with hits reducing the next charge time. Its Catalyst adds a familiar perk for Destiny 2 players, Rewind Rounds, which basically refills the magazine from reserves based on the number of hits attained before running dry. Its C2 is a flat 20% precision damage bonus, and its C3 boosts chain lightning damage by 33% and makes precision hits deal higher chain lightning damage. Given that Hellhest's kit boosts fire rate and damage, you likely see where this is going. Royal Contravene in its Combat Sights mode, paired with all of Hellhest's boosts, is an absolute monster in terms of DPS, and as you kill stuff, you're making data fragments and generating heavy ammo. It's a loop that rewards itself. It does encourage you to take a more medium range approach due to the smaller range of the Combat Sights, but as long as you play into the range, the amount of damage that you can output with Royal Contravene is absolutely amazing. Therefore, my recommendations weapon-wise at this moment is a Yoshimoto with Annihilation and Endured Yields, and Royal Contravene with C1 and, if possible, C2, but at least C1 enabled. Alright, so that covers Hellhest's kits, artifact, and weapons. But how is she as a character? Well, mileage will vary. It's not that she's bad in the slightest, but she's not outright good either. Let me explain. When you look at characters like Gwen and Estella, they have commonalities. They're good out of the box. Estella has a lot of similarities to Hellhest, so let's look at her as an example. Estella summons up to 3 companions to the field, and all 3 can be summoned at level 1, 2, or 3, with level dictating the strength of her summon's attacks. These summons travel with her. She also summons a stationary, uber-powerful dragon for her super that deals massive damage to enemies. Her kit consists of close to medium-range rapid-fire options in terms of weapons. She's versatile in the fact that her summons have the freedom and range to stay near Estella but still traverse the battlefield, targeting enemies all on their own. Basically, it's summon fight, summon fight, summon fight, repeat until you have ultimate. Build up to level 2 or 3, summon and repeat. This loop is easy to use, easy to master, and very potent. But Hellhest is a little different. She can summon 2 drones, and they're stationary wherever you place them. They can be upgraded after summoning, but they can't be moved. Once they're fully leveled up, moving the drone destroys the original and creates a new drone. This makes her playstyle a lot different out of the box from characters like Estella, Gwen, and Rossi. Most characters that have been released have been approachable and versatile, and I'm not saying that Hellhest can't have that. But to really profit from her kit and maximize your contributions, you have to play within her means. Hellhest is intended to stand her ground. Her whole kit revolves around setting up a zone and camping it. Since her healing and boosting drones can't be moved, you're really encouraged to choose a spot for setup, deploy the drones, and pick everything off from a distance before progressing and repeating the cycle. For a player like me, who generally likes to rush in, even as a character like Umiko or Tan2, this was a big change to get used to. I mentioned this the other day, but the first time I played with Hellhest, I absolutely hated her. The bow felt underpowered, the healing wasn't working well enough for me, and having to fight at a distance with the bow felt terrible. Here's another secret. The bow isn't intended to be her primary weapon. My headcanon is that part of the reason for her heavy generation is because you're intended to utilize her heavy weapon in a more primary fashion, then swap to the bow for cleanup only. Each and every kill you get on enemies impacted by data analysis only grants you 1 single data fragment, regardless of which weapon you use to score the kill, meaning there's no preference in her kit for heavies over primaries, at least when it comes to ammo generation. You essentially need 24 kills to generate 1 heavy ammo brick. This leads into the next portion of my analysis, her talents. Now, normally I don't talk about the Mythic Hero's talents, but because of the fact that there's presently an event in-game for T6ing her talent tree, they're obviously pushing, I'm going to talk about it as that really seems to be where they're wanting their players to go. Her T1 is Tactical Deployment, and it grants an additional charge to Rapid Deployment, bringing the total to 3. Her T2 is called Independent Computation, and it gives Hellhest's encrypted network the ability to passively generate one data fragment every 15 seconds. Her T3 increases overclocked shots damage by an additional 20%. Her T4 reduces the data fragment's needs for a brick from 24 to 16 for a reduction of 33%, and a total of 32 needed for 2 bricks. Her T5 increases her salvo stacks to 6. And lastly, her T6 increases all drone levels to 3, and it adds an extra instance of damage equal to 50% of the fired weapon's damage. When you go through the tree, it becomes painfully obvious why NetEase wants us to max out her tree. Of note here are her T1, T2, T4, and T6 abilities. The T3 and T5 are nice additions, but the meat and potatoes of her talents lie in those 4 upgrades. The question is, given these boosts and how out of the box Hellhest plays, how necessary are her talents to effectively playing her? Well, to be frank, they really aren't. A lot of these upgrades are extremely nice additions, but I've only got her at T1 and I've managed to consistently outdamage teammates without issue, including Estella's and Gwen's that are already at T6. Would having her talent tree maxed make that an even easier feat? Absolutely. Does that mean I need to spend my house payment to make it happen? Absolutely not. And listen, I made investments during the beta for the rebate, and I've also made a lot of investments into the game post-launch. I have 50% of the roster already T6'd. Everyone except for Rossi, Hellhest, Tantu, Yolder, Jean-Wei, and Atal. And I'm only off by 1 for Atal and 1 for Jean-Wei, 2 for Tan, and 5 for Yolder, who, by the way, to this day, I've never actually drawn off of a banner. Side note, with Rossi being T2 and Helhest being T1. Her kit is a little clunky, and it really makes you play into her style, but since it's making you play into its style so strictly, it also rewards you handsomely for doing so. The damage boosts and healing offered by the drones are some of the best buff perks in the game, bar none, even pushing Tan 2 into the back burner somewhat due to how good her kit actually is. And that's out of the box. If you respect her playstyle and play into it, regardless of if you've got her talents, you'll be successful in any activity you jump into. She's a really solid stationary sustain and buffer with a lot of outgoing damage potential straight out of the box who's really fun to play. Her kit is unique and brings a lot to the table in terms of new team comp options. If I had to point out something I honestly don't like, it's honestly how strong she actually is once you figure her out. Since her kit is actually so good, she sort of power creeps Tan's position in the meta. This is sort of a scary thought since it really introduces power creep into Destiny Rising. Estelle and Gwen were also early indicators that could be a possibility, but this is the first time a character has really competed so much with a character already established in the game. Her damage buffs, healing, and piercing Shinka addressment all directly challenge Tan 2's spot in the meta. This isn't something unexpected either. Metas come and go, but gacha games don't typically nerf characters post-launch due to fears of violating users' digital asset values, getting sued for false advertising, and losing public trust for bait-and-switch practices. Which means new characters need to be a little broken, but not have a delta too high that forces other characters off the map. This means adjustments are made to other aspects and not the characters themselves. For example, Gwen and Yolder having access to Ring of Conversion at launch. That was later removed. Or, the nerf to Mahama Yuri's ability to address piercing Shinka weak spots. You could also look at all the nerfs made in Singularity Chaos to a lot of the Gifts of the Nine. If you need a specific example though, why not check out Boxer? It was basically taken out back in Old Yellard. So, what am I trying to say here? Well, in a lot of gachas, power creep is a major thing. It occurs when the game is balanced around the heroes instead of the heroes being balanced around the game. The need to make new heroes more enticing can encroach on older heroes' usefulness. Honkai Star Rail, for example, is a game where you are buying units knowing full damn well that in 12 months 90% of them will be no longer useful. And that sucks, but that's the nature of power creep. I'm hopeful that Hellhest being powerful as enticement for players isn't the start of a trend that results in the sandbox shifting to a point where all the Year 1 characters eventually become unusable in in-game content. It's a slippery slope, and it's one NetEase needs to be careful of. But yeah, I think she's awesome. I think she's actually one of the best characters in the game bar none, and she's definitely worth pulling. No questions even asked. Even if it's just a T0 copy and you just get the base Hellhest, she's really good and she has a very unique playstyle and kit. Definitely worth at least considering picking up. But what do you all think about Hellhest? Are you loving your kit and playstyle? Comment down below and let me know what you think. And hey, if you haven't already and you like this content, you should totally subscribe. Anyways, I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya!